Most people obsess over finding the perfect deal. Few people obsess over how to actually pay for it. And let me tell you, the money side is where deals are won or lost. Today, I'm going to break down exactly how debt financing really works when you're buying a business. We'll talk about senior lenders, mezzanine funds, seller notes, and how to structure everything so you close the deal and keep enough cash to grow once you own it. First-time business buyers make the mistake of asking, how much debt can I put on the business? To minimize the equity required to be as little as possible. A lot of the time, these buyers end up with a failing business that can't support its debt service payments. A better question to ask is, how much debt can the business comfortably carry while still funding growth? Debt shouldn't just close the deal. It should leave oxygen for working capital, maintenance capex, and growth capex. When you look at your next deal, shift your mindset from being focused on EBITDA to being focused on operating cash flow. Modeling the cash that's left after interest, principal, taxes, maintenance capex, and working capital changes. That's how lenders underwrite, and it's how you avoid suffocating the company on day one. Now let's talk about the main building blocks of the debt stack. There are usually up to 3 components: senior debt, mezzanine debt, and a seller note. Senior debt. Senior lenders are usually banks or senior credit funds. They take first lien on assets, set the primary covenants, and expect regular amortization. They take on the least amount of risk out of anyone else in the capital stack and are appropriately the cheapest capital in the stack. To keep their risk as low as possible, senior lenders enforce a set of covenants, different rules that the business must adhere to be in compliance. A typical set of core covenants you'll see at the senior level: total debt over EBITDA cap, minimum EBITDA floor, debt service coverage ratio, DSCR, which is the minimum of operating income over debt service, capex limit or budget discipline. Senior gets first priority on the intercreditor stack and usually dictates terms everyone else must live with. Mezzanine debt. Mezz sits between senior and equity. It's commonly non-amortizing, meaning no principal is paid over the life of the loan. It carries a higher coupon and runs 5 to 6 years. That non-amortizing feature means that debt service payments are much lower, which frees cash to reinvest in growth. Think sales, hires, new markets, and systems. Mezz funds are used to LBO cash flowing businesses where you want more leverage without losing control to equity. Expect a slightly higher rate and tighter reporting, but no day-to-day interference if you perform. And then there's the seller note. This is one of my favorite tools. When a seller is willing to take a part of the price in a note, it tells you they believe in the business's future. It's also a way to bridge the financing gap. Usually it's structured behind senior and mezz, so it doesn't interfere, but it's still debt, and it's often priced somewhere between the two. Call it 6 to 10%. The beauty is you can negotiate creative terms, maybe a period of no payments or part of it paid in kind instead of cash. It keeps the deal alive and aligned. Putting the pieces together. What matters most is how these pieces fit together. Senior and mezz don't just coexist. They're governed by an intercreditor agreement. That document sets payment priorities and rights. Senior lenders want their payments first. Mezz lenders agree to stand behind them, but they'll want reporting and maybe a slightly higher covenant cushion. The seller note then slots in last, often agreeing not to receive principal or interest payments on their portion of the purchase price until the senior lender's loan is fully paid off. So the senior lender is comfortable. And you, the buyer, sit on equity, the riskiest but also the most rewarding part of the stack. Here's what to expect after closing. Plan to report your quarterly financials with your lenders, including P&L, balance sheet, cash flow statement. If your provider is an SBIC or mezz fund, expect an annual audit and a real budgeting process. Transparent early communication earns you flexibility when you need it. Here's the key. Don't design your capital stack around maximizing debt. Design it around maximizing survivability. What I mean is this. In your base case, sure, maybe your debt service coverage ratio is 1.7 times. Looks fine. But what if sales dip 10%? What if interest rates tick up? What if your biggest customer leaves? If the math still works in those downside scenarios, then you've got a deal you can live with. One of the worst things you can do is build a model that works beautifully on paper, but collapses at the first sign of reality. Lenders know this. That's why they stress test your numbers. And honestly, you should too, because you don't want to be the person calling your mezz lender 6 months in asking for a waiver. That's how reputations get damaged. So how long does all this take? From LOI to close, expect 60 to 90 days. A lot of that depends on when you bring lenders into the conversation. If you wait until the end, you'll spend weeks recutting your structure. If you bring them in early, you get their thoughts on the deal before it's too late. And you save yourself the headache. And remember, it's not just about approval, it's about building trust. If you treat lenders as partners, not adversaries, you'll have a much easier time closing this deal and financing your next one. Let's put some numbers to this. Say you've got a company making $3 million in EBITDA. You might get a senior lender comfortable with $6 million, about 2 times EBITDA. Then you tack on maybe $2 million of mezzanine, non-amortizing, so you can conserve cash. Maybe the seller agrees to carry $1.5 million. Suddenly you've got a full $9.5 million stack. What's important isn't just the math, it's the breathing room. Because in those first 24 months, you're going to need to invest in integration, maybe new hires, better systems. That non-am from Mez and that flexibility from the seller note give you the runway to do it. Here's a big misconception. Lenders only care about the numbers. Not true. They care about 3 things: the company, the deal, and you. The company. Is the cash flow stable? Is the industry durable? Are the projections believable? The deal. Is the price fair, and does the structure actually support growth, not just close the transaction? And then you. Do you come across as transparent, competent, committed? Lenders can smell it when someone hides risk. Every deal has risks, so there's no point in trying to hide them. Actually showing the risks and how you plan to manage them builds way more trust than pretending everything's perfect. So debt financing isn't about squeezing every drop of leverage you can. It's about building a structure that gets the deal done and leaves enough room for the business to thrive after you own it. Senior debt, mezzanine, seller notes. Each piece has its role. Get the mix right, and you not only close, but you set yourself up to grow. And if you want my help putting together your own capital stack and actually closing your first or your 100th acquisition, that's what I do all day, every day. There's a link in the description where you can book a call with me.